enough.
It's okay for a man to go into the women's section, show his penis around the other women, young little girls underage. Your spa, we spa, condone that. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not going to sip and put my mask on. Sip and put my mask on. Sip and put my mask on. Eat and put my mask on. While I'm eating and I'm drinking, I'm going to keep my mask off.
Put your mask on. Put your mask on.
Welcome to the New Flesh podcast, the podcast you deserve. My name is Ricky Allpike, and joining me today, as always, is Mr. Jonathan Astro. How are you?
I am raring to go.
Well, I tell you what, shit's happening in Melbourne. It's
Apocalyptic.
It is. I feel like we're on the edge of something big. So, for our international audience, we had an earthquake here in Melbourne yesterday. And it was the largest one recorded. We're not known for our earthquakes here in Australia, but I believe it measured somewhere 5.5 on the Richter scale, I want to say, which I'm sure is no match for anything in perhaps San Francisco or Japan. But for us here, it was quite big. In my first experience having an earthquake.
How was it?
Well, I thought it was a couple of blocks up. They're building a new house, and I thought it had something to do with that. I was like, well, what are they doing out there with that machinery? Like, just ruining my morning. So I walked out there and I just saw my neighbor across the road. He just went, "Oh, did you feel that? I think we had an earthquake." So that was interesting to see my TV sort of rattle back and forth and the windows shake and all that. So a bit of excitement. So we did see some damage in the city, a few sort of heritage buildings had some damage, some facades have come down. So no tragic loss of life or anything like that, but still combined with the whole COVID situation here, I think it's really it's made for an apocalyptic vibe, I think. So currently in Melbourne, we're seeing some of the most extreme protesting of the past 2 years. Now, the protests are made up mostly of workers from the construction industry, and they're protesting a number of things. They're obviously protesting the endless COVID lockdown that we seem to have here in Melbourne, the demands brought in by Premier Daniel Andrews that all construction workers get vaccinated or lose their jobs. They're also protesting the shutdown of their industry for a snap 2-week lockdown, which by now everyone should know that will be at least 5 weeks. But they're also protesting more than that. This is a revolt about being bullied, lied about, and smeared, and a protest about the union that they've paid to represent them. So let me lay out some of the events here because it can be a little bit confusing. A lot has happened over the past few days. So last week, the Andrews government shut down all on-site tea rooms for construction workers in a bid to stop the spread of COVID through that industry.
What's a tea room?
So, a tea room is basically where you go and have your coffee, you have your snacks. There'll be a microwave there to heat up shit, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And the result was a protest that saw hundreds of tradespeople setting up tables and chairs throughout the streets of Melbourne CBD.
Kind of making it look like their tea room?
That's right. Yeah, that was the vibe. Like, we're gonna protest by having a huge tea room taking up the streets of Melbourne. So a week later, Premier Daniel Andrews announced that all construction workers must be vaccinated by the end of September or lose their jobs. And this announcement saw hundreds of construction workers descend on the CFMEU headquarters to protest mandatory vaccinations. And this protest got really heated, with bottles being thrown at the union boss, John Setka, and the front door of the headquarters being bashed down. Now, the one thing that caught my eye was that they all needed to be vaccinated by the end of September. Now, I had a huge problem trying to book in any sort of vaccination for any date when I was getting that squared away, because basically everything's fully booked, and it's been a fairly big problem in Melbourne. It's just getting an appointment to get vaccinated. So I think it's a bit unrealistic to think that hundreds of thousands of construction workers could get vaccinated by the end of September. But anyway, that issue aside. So then union boss Jon Setka then came out to the media saying that the protesters did not represent the union and that the vast majority were professional protesters and right-wing neo-Nazis that hijacked the protest. He also called them drunken fascists and un-Australian morons. Then former federal Labor leader Bill Shorten came out saying that the protesters were a network of hard right man-baby Nazis, people who want to cause trouble. Ridiculous comments there by Bill Shorten. He's known for his ridiculous comments. So the Andrews government then announced that they were shutting down the construction industry entirely for 2 weeks. That's the snap 2-week lockdown. Now, in Melbourne, the construction industry has been allowed to go about their business almost unaffected by the pandemic restrictions imposed on most other industries. They've had COVID type procedures in place, such as mask wearing and social distancing, that sort of thing. But this is largely unpoliced across work sites. The response to the smearing by their union boss, as well as the Andrews announcement over the shutdown, has been mass protesting and rioting throughout Melbourne's CBD. Protesters have vowed to be out every day of the 2-week lockdown protesting. And the union boss, Jon Setka, has subsequently threatened to sack any union member that has been spotted engaging in any violent activity during the protests. So it is true that protesters have been joined by many anti-lockdowners during these events. And they've actually shut down the Westgate Bridge for many hours. I think that was yesterday or the day before. I think the day before. And they've also been moving all around the CBD. Now, regardless of how you feel about vaccination mandates and anti-vaxxers and that sort of thing, I think that you can only push people so far. And I think the Andrews government has pushed people beyond endurance here. And just to put it in context, Melburnians have been locked down for a total of 7 months and counting. And people are really desperate. And today actually marks a significant event in this COVID history. Melbourne is now the most locked down city in the world. It's now passed, I think, Buenos Aires as having the most days under lockdown. Now, within these protests, you've also seen journalists being attacked. And also we've seen construction workers chanting fake news. So they're obviously a bit upset about how the media has dealt with all of this as well. With the exception of maybe Sky News, most media outlets have been quite, just really towing the line and just going along with everything that the Andrews government has been telling them without much probing or questioning of things. The other thing you've seen in these protests, which is notable, is that there seems to be pretty obvious double standard expressed by the state's police force. So we had BLM protests last year, and this workers' union based protest going on right now has seen very little police intervention, whereas the anti-lockdown pro-freedom rallies resulted in extreme police heavy-handedness and hundreds of arrests. So we had one of those pro-freedom rallies last Saturday, and that saw a woman in her 70s tackled to the ground and pepper sprayed by 2 police officers, and the result was a broken hip. So we haven't seen anything like that during BLM protests or any protests that are union-based. The CFMEU, for those who don't realise, represents 1% of the total Australian workforce, which is quite significant for one industry. It has an annual turnover of $146 million, which makes them very powerful influences in the Labor Party movement, and they're one of the biggest donors to the Australian Labor Party. So I think no doubt we're going to see the Andrews government roll over and take mandatory vaccinations off the table here. But I'm not sure if that is going to stop rioting, because I don't think it's just that. I don't think it's just mandatory vaccinations, because I'm sure there's heaps of construction workers out there that are quite happy and prepared and willing to get the vaccine. But again, it comes down to that issue of choice. And I feel that way too. You know, I've had one vaccination. I've got my other one coming up in a few weeks' time, so I'm pro-vaccination. But I am anti coercion, and I think the idea that the government can tell you to put something inside your body and make that mandatory seems like a strange concept to me. And I think at the end of the day that the anti-vax community is so small that at the end of the day, I think it's going to be insignificant in terms of death and in terms of hospitalization and stuff like that. So I just think we should just get on with it, really. But I think these protests are going to last the duration of the 2 weeks. And like I said, I don't think it's just about vaccinations. I think it's about the way that tradespeople have been talked about as the super spreaders, because they have been criticized for high COVID infection numbers, and they are high within the construction sector. But, this could be due to the nature of the work that they do. In order to move shit around a building site, it often takes many hands to lift heavy shit, And also working class people often live in outer suburbs or in the regions, so they've got a lot further to travel for their jobs. So what's your take on all of this? I know you're not in Melbourne at the moment, you're based in Sydney, but I'm sure a lot of this has crossed your path over the last few days.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's I think you've summed it up beautifully. It's hard. The thing that strikes me about this that I took away from it, I really focused on a couple of things that were said by the Premier, Daniel Andrews, and their head of the police there. On the first day of the protests, they condemned them and the rest of it. Both of those leaders made comments to the effect of protests don't work. Do you know what I mean? Now, they both said that almost as I've stated it. They've said it doesn't work. Protesting doesn't work. This is not how to do it. I think that is a fascinating statement to make, and so, to make unironically. The idea, because you mentioned it. Firstly, if protests don't work, well then, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Perhaps it should have been said last year during that multi-thousand person strong protest, BLM protest at the height of the pandemic. Yeah. So if it doesn't work, so there was no curbing of this statement. There was nothing to say, look, we understand that protest is your given right, and we see it as a viable form of a way of showing your displeasure about something. Particularly, we've got the Eureka Stockade and which is an important part of our Australian sort of myths and legends and history. This idea of standing up to tyrannical powers, and I believe some of the unions have that flag, as part of their garb. Now, if I need to tell you, I don't protest on the streets really. Like that's not my style. But if I need to tell you why protesting is important, well then I don't know. I can't help you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Didn't you find that to be a strange position for them both to take?
Yeah, I think so. And given the context here in Victoria as well, that Parliament has not sat for 2 years, so there's no scrutiny in parliamentary terms. The media is very weak against the Andrews government as well. So there's really no real hardline scrutiny going on here. I feel like this is one of the only ways to express your concern. I think it would be different if Parliament was sitting and you had an opposition that was really testing these ideas and testing the merits of some of these lockdown measures, like curfews, like masks outside, that there is no scientific evidence that these need to be in place to stop the spread. So we don't have that. And the other thing is, the Andrews government, it's all good and well telling the construction industry that they have to get vaccinated or they lose their jobs. But what about the public sector? The public sector here in Victoria is massive. It employs over 300,000 people in the public sector. The majority of those workers have never gone back to the office to work. They're still working from home. The politicians have not gone to Parliament, as I said. So how about you put a vaccination mandate on all public servants, on all politicians, and get back to Parliament? Get back to sitting in Parliament where these sorts of things can be debated. I mean, why aren't you willing to put a mandate on your workers when you're putting them on construction workers? And it's silly to say, oh well, the public service, our work has not resulted in big COVID cases and COVID numbers, well, and whereas the construction industry has resulted in lots of cases. Well, no shit, you're at home. You're sitting at home behind your Zoom screens, whereas these tradies, they're actually out there and having to interact with people and having to travel and having to move shit around. And a lot of work as a tradie is shit work. Like, sometimes the only thing in your day you have to look forward to is your lunch break, is tucking into a nice roll or a nice meat pie or fucking whatever you want to eat. Like, so to lock away tea rooms from these guys is also, I feel for these guys because, you want to lug shit around all day. The one thing you get to have is that break where you get to eat something good,
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to see how it pans out because the Andrews government in Melbourne is behaving like the USA Dream Team. Do you know what I mean? Sure of victory and completely disinterested and disengaged.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sure. So I don't see the only way to stop it is to get rid of them, and it's not going to happen. I just don't know why, but Victoria has a S&M relationship with Andrews.
Well, do you think people within the Labor Party might try and overthrow Andrews and replace him with someone else? I mean, that could happen.
Possibly, but it's going to take. He's using this siege mentality. For the second year in a row, he's managed to extend these COVID powers, and there's a lack of scrutiny. The opposition is completely weak. And now he's taking on, a huge voting base of the Labor Party. So, look, this could be the thing that undoes him. But all corners of the media, the Australian included, Guardian and the Australian, all calling out these protesters, and not really giving them. I mean, the Guardian's trying their best in their way, saying rubber bullets used and all of that, because that's what they focus on. But they're not really going that hard. They're not really questioning. I mean, all the quotes you said from Bill Shorten to John Setko and everyone, this pumping up of the idea of, it's very common now just to say, oh yeah, just professional protesters, right-wing extremists, anti-vaxxers, and you say, I don't know, it looked like a lot of rank and file members to me.
Well, there have been some interesting viral videos of. There's one in particular where this guy is filming a whole bunch of Sikh guys at the protest. So guys with those turbans on, the Sikhs, and they're all part of the construction industry, these Sikh guys. And he's like, look, here's the people from, from Punjab or wherever they're from, these Sikh guys, they're not right-wing Nazis, Bill Shorten, they're not man-baby Nazis. Check them out, That's something that got me, is just how disingenuous, and, they straight away, the way to try and shut down that argument is just to go, oh, they're just right-wing extremists. Oh, they're just people out to bust some heads because they want to have a good time and get their punch on, whereas I don't think it's that. I mean, sure, there are some people out there, I'm sure, that are having a good time protesting and might be knocking back a few beers while they do it. Who knows? But I think the large majority of these protesters are very frustrated across the board, and being spoken to like that as well from not only their union boss, but also from people in the media and politicians is, I think, is pretty disgusting, really.
Well, it's a messaging problem, and they just haven't been told the right narrative. That's enough to make them feel better about the future. So at the moment, they feel desperate enough to hit the streets and take a rubber bullet and take over a war memorial and the rest of it.
Yep.
Whereas maybe, I mean, the same protests aren't happening in Sydney for whatever reason.
No, that's right. And I believe there is a mandatory vaccination mandate for construction workers in Sydney, and there haven't been any riots there. So the issue, I think, is broader and goes deeper than that. You know, if it was just about getting vaccinated, I'm sure you would see some noise in Sydney from the construction industry. You know,
well, all I can hope is that that this forces the Victorian government into a climax situation. I want there to be some kind of, everything's got to come to a head, because Andrews is talking still like it's the height of the pandemic, whereas people here in Sydney are everyone's fed up. Everyone's like, right, get us to 70% vaccination and let's move on with our lives. The guy who was giving me my shot, he's a doctor, and he was saying, or a nurse or whatever, he was just saying, oh yeah, we've got to get you vaccinated so you can all get back to work, and we can't be locking down anymore, and this is from a medical professional.
Yeah.
So that's what we need to be pushing, that message at every corner. But it seems to be everyone's so fearful of saying that. You should just say, look, let's get our shots, follow the medical advice, get our shots. And is that, what else can we do? Nothing? Great. Say your prayers, go to work.
Well, the problem around that is that the numbers keep changing and the goalposts keep changing. So initially it was 70%. Once we got to 70%, things would open up. And then for some reason, the rhetoric from politicians was they'd always say, once we get to 70 and 80%, they're just saying 70 and 80%. And then now in Victoria, they've dropped the 70% altogether, and they just say once we're at 80%. And in Queensland, they've now dropped the 70 and the 80%, and they're talking 90%. So, right. and I don't even know if 90% is even possible. Is that even possible to get to 90%? I'm not sure. I have no idea about that, but that's frustrating too, because we're already moving at such a glacial pace opening up. I know Sydney is much quicker and much more measured, but even that seems slow to me. But in Victoria, it's just the roadmap that Daniel Andrews talked about last Sunday was just so disheartening. It was just such a blow to your morale to hear him talking of this grand roadmap that was basically, you're going to be locked down till the end of the year, which is basically what the roadmap is.
Dreadful. But everyone needs to get, we've just said it, unfortunately, everyone needs to get angry.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to get angry.
Well, what would it take for you to get out on the streets, Astro?
I don't know, actually. It's a good point. It would need to be, I would need to feel, that, the walls were coming in on me and I had no choice. Do you know what I mean? And some people do feel that way. Absolutely. I'm by some trick of the moonlight, I'm not in that desperate position. Do you know what I mean? I think, when some of these people, or some of the people the small businesses who've gone out and spoken their mind, because they're everything they have is on the line. So I don't know. It's well, my attitude is I couldn't live in Victoria under those circumstances. Do you know what I mean? And I know that's not a helpful thing to say if people have got roots there, or they've whatever, they have to live there. But my attitude will be one thing I can do is not live there. I don't want to live in a place where that is going, where that's going on. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we've already seen 40,000 people leave this state since the pandemic began.
Yeah, but that wouldn't worry the higher ups at all. They just, I just know they don't care. It just seems that, and when you look at how much Labor's been in power there, over the last 20 years or whatever, or even longer, it's become a stronghold. So the problem with that, I guess, is that it's just hard to get any change or opposition or argument. It's just diktat, and I don't see how that's going to change anytime soon. There needs to be a big swirl of outrage, and I hope what Peter Credlin's talking about on Sky News and it comes to pass, and that there's a quick change, that suddenly, because Andrews has survived so many of these bullets, really. and maybe this one, because of its ties, the union ties to Labor, maybe that might be enough to topple him.
Yeah. Well, we can only hope. So on a related topic, we were going to talk about masks, weren't we?
Yeah.
So tell me about the Met Ball.
Well, look, everyone's talked about this story. So basically the Met Gala is just a big fancy, Marie Antoinette style ball that I think it was started by Anna Wintour from Vogue years ago, and basically it's just where a bunch of rich Democrats go and dress up and and wow us all with their fashion choices and whatnot. And all those pictures have come out, all the extreme fashion. It's really just a bunch of guys in dresses, which you'd expect. And then the other famous one is was it Delavine, that chick with her white overalls that say "Peg the Patriarchy"? AOC's famous dress that says "Tax the Rich" on it. But
how much does it cost to get a ticket to this ball?
Oh God, isn't it like $30,000 or something?
Yeah, somewhere in that ball.
Yeah, I believe I heard on one of the podcasts I listened to that price was raised years ago to try and keep the riffraff out.
Right.
And the defense was, it's all for charity or whatever. But the most famous images will always be of these fantastic dresses, a lot of them politically charged with, with queer colors and slogans and whatever. Mm-hmm. Often by, in a lot of them are white women. And, in the background or just next to them are a bunch of serfs or aides, almost all people of color wearing masks, while the people in the fantastic dresses have no masks. Now, I actually don't know what the defense has been for this. Like it seems, the image just seems to speak 1,000 words. So I'm not quite sure what possible defense you can have for those images. They're damning. Do you know what I mean? Have you heard any defenses of this?
No, I haven't. I've seen a similar thing happen in the Emmys recently. I hear a defense from the Emmys. So the Emmys technically were outdoors this year, except they were in a big fucking tent.
Right.
And everyone is still just jammed like they would have been if the Emmys were inside a grand hall somewhere. So that was their excuse. Oh, but we're outside,
Who do you respect more? The person who says, technically we're outside and goes into the bylaws and says all of that. Do you respect that person, or the person who says, I know what the rules are, but I don't care?
I think I'd prefer that, as long as they weren't the people making the rules or trying to enforce the rules. That's the only thing here.
Right. It's just that tap dancing that is so grotesque,
Well, I don't know if you've heard much about the San Francisco mayor. Have you heard this story?
Oh, a little bit, yeah. There's been because there's been a slew of sort of public figures who've been caught out.
That's right.
She's one of them.
I was there. I was eating and I was drinking and I was sitting with my friends, and everyone who came in there was vaccinated. No, I'm not going to sip and put my mask on, sip and put my mask on, sip and put my mask on, eat and put my mask on. While I'm eating and I'm drinking, I'm going to keep my mask off. We were all having a good time. And again, all vaccinated. My drink was sitting at the table. I got up and started dancing because I was feeling the spirit. And I wasn't thinking about a mask. I was thinking about having a good time.
The San Francisco mayor last week, Mayor London Breed, spoke to KPIX5 about being caught without a mask inside of the city's Black Cat nightclub. There's a video showing Mayor Breed dancing without a mask while watching a performance by Bay Area American soul and R&B group Tony. Now, San Francisco was the first US city to impose a lockdown, and it's also one with the strictest vaccine mandate and also the strictest mask mandate as well. It's mandated for all indoor venues. Now, she defended her lack of mask by saying that everyone was vaccinated and that the idea of putting your mask on in between sips of a drink was ridiculous, although this is what every American airline asks their passengers to do currently. And also that she was excited about seeing Tony, who haven't performed live for 20 years. And here's a direct quote: "I was feeling the spirit. I wasn't thinking about a mask. I was there to have a good time." So
I knew you were going to say that quote.
yeah, feeling the spirit.
Feeling the spirit.
Yeah. So is that a good enough excuse,
Well, look, again, it's just a narrative and a messaging problem. Like, we all probably agree with her.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? But she's having a trouble selling that idea or being self-aware enough to explain her position. You know what I mean? Like,
but also given that she and her government are enforcing quite strictly these rules on everybody else. I think that's the problem.
But no one can seem to pin her down on exactly that. Because what you want, if you're a journalist, you want to be able to ask the question for them you want her to state in her own words what the mandates are or what the rules are for everyone. And then the next breath, you want her to admit that she didn't follow those rules. But the brilliance of these politicians is the way they can, obfuscate and dance around so that you're never going to get that so you can't, we're left with saying, oh, well, what about this? And they just don't acknowledge it. And then she says, I felt the spirit. And then you say, yeah, but what about, the rules that you impose on her? Are you saying that it's okay? Is the rule now, if you feel the spirit, that you can
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah. So if I feel the spirit when I'm going shopping, at Coles or Woolworths or something, like doing my grocery shop, that I can not wear a mask.
Well, because but that's the thing. That's why Lord Sumption in the UK, that former Supreme Court justice or High Court or whatever over there, that's why what he says is so spectacular. He, in clear terms, and if you want to listen to him, couple of podcasts where he talks about the idea of following the law and following the rules, and he talks about that. He brings up the case of after. I'm pretty sure he does. He brings up that case of how after the Second World War, people had identity papers and whatnot for years after, and it took people's civil disobedience of that to finally, it did come to a head where someone was arrested and by not presenting them or tearing it up or whatever, and then that was acquitted. But it took a lot of what I'm imagining, a lot of incidences of civil disobedience building up to that. And he says, as I think about all the time, he says, you're under no, now correct me if I'm wrong, you're under no intrinsic or moral obligation to follow the law. Do you know what I mean? Which doesn't mean you won't get caught, and it doesn't mean you won't face responsibility and whatever. But I thought that was a striking thing to say. And I think that maybe some of these people need to, if that is what they believe, they should say that. They should say, oh, look, we have the rules. The rules are what they are. And, they're catching most people and doing what we need to do on a macro scale. But on a person-to-person scale, in the moment, you're under no obligation to intrinsically follow, or moral obligation to follow the law. And if you feel the spirit, then you should break the rules. But they're not going to say that.
No.
Well,
I think speaking for myself, like I would probably go along with these restrictions a bit more happily if it was presented as a choice. This is what we're recommending people do to help stop the spread, like appealing to my sense of being a good citizen and of being
giving you the illusion of agency.
That's right. Yeah. Rather than saying that you must do it, because I'm the kind of person who's fairly contrarian in my makeup. And when people start telling me that I have to do something, that's when I, feel that I shouldn't be doing it.
Did your wife know that she was marrying such a contrarian? Or did you debut that later?
Well, I think she is quite a contrarian as well.
I find this out slowly over time. The little tidbits you give me, I go, wait a minute. There's more going on there.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's, the last thing I want to say on masks, and this is quite a blow as well. There has been a viral video showing a crying toddler forced to wear a mask at a daycare, which sparked a lot of backlash. And it's been
dreadful video.
Child abuse. It is very dreadful.
Play with those Put your mask on. Put your mask on. No, you gotta wear it on, honey.
No, you gotta keep it on.
Put your mask on.
There you go. Keep it right there.
Yay, Mason! Yay!
Keep it on, Mason. Look, we're gonna keep it right here. Look.
Peekaboo, I see you. Keep your mask on. Put your mask back on.
What are you looking at? Come on, keep it on your face. You gotta keep it on your face. So we go outside. There you go. Mason. No, keep it on. Keep you safe, okay?
Yay, Mason! Yay!
So there's a 2-year-old called Mason was forced to wear a mask at childcare. And there's footage of childcare workers forcing the mask onto the kid's face. He's crying. He's upset. But also what's ridiculous is the mask is being handled by the workers. It's being pulled off constantly. I'm sure it's being dropped on the ground a lot. I mean, really, do we need to be having 2-year-olds wearing masks? You know, I mean, it's and the footage is quite disturbing, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at it and you just go, well, it's an untenable situation. You know, I'm not quite sure what the solve is, but it's untenable. Like you know, the kid can't be there. If you know what I mean. Like I'm not. Obviously, you and I are thinking we want the law changed or whatever it is, but if in the meantime it's not. Like this is an untenable situation because, as you say, it's the fast if they're touching the mask and everything. But secondly, if the kid is unable to follow the instructions that the law mandates, well, then he can't be there.
Yeah,
and that they shouldn't have to be put in that position, and he shouldn't have to be put in that position.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I don't know what the solve is. It's dreadful, and I hope it forces change. It was really tough to watch.
Well, it's pretty heavy topics there. I feel like we need a little bit of a pick me up. Where is Sheila? Sheila, you're back.
I am. Hello.
We've had some heavy topics today. I need some levity.
All right. Well, I'm not going to hit you with heavy topics.
All right. Okay, good.
I can guarantee.
I don't want you to hit me with any hard-hitting journalism.
No. Well, you know, my source material is usually only from the Daily Mail, so you are not at any risk.
Okay, good.
Okay. Well, look, I've deviated just on this one to news.com.au.
Another journalistic stalwart.
I know, but I'm sorry for people who only love the Daily Mail, but this was just too strange. All right. Why Australian men want to remove their genitals.
Do they?
Well, here you go. In July, Brisbane tradie Ryan King, 28, was given a 3.5-year suspended sentence for removing the genitals of 2 men with their consent in amateur castration surgeries, one of which occurred at a backpacker hostel. The 2 men, both of which suffered life-threatening complications due to the amateur surgery, were self-described eunuchs who sought out King, who has no medical qualifications after he advertised his amateur castration services on an online forum.
What?
Eunuchs are a growing subculture of men seeking to remove their genitals, either just their testicles or both testicles and penis, in a procedure known as gender nullification.
Yes, we've talked about nullos before.
We've covered
and
this.
I've got one more for you. Here we go. The online forum, the Eunuch Archive, describes itself as a friendly support site for the eunuch community and has 6,000 members, many of whom are from Australia.
Right. Well, look,
Really?
first thing, there's been periods of unemployment in my life, all right? And people are tracking down this guy to perform as a doctor. Like, you know what I mean? Like he is overemployed. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not even qualified as a doctor and he's getting gigs. He's getting he's booked for surgery tomorrow.
At a backpacker hostel.
And he's a tradie, right?
Yes.
Well, they're busy all the time anyway. You can't, for love nor money, get a tradie to do anything. And he's on his off time. His side hustle is, I'm an MD.
Yes, I like that. His side hustle, like he's probably getting paid, huge amounts anyway, and his carpentry work. So anyway, there's that. I just thought I'd throw that in there because it's very interesting. Why does gender nullification keep haunting this show? Like, we covered it a while ago, and I felt sick while we were doing it. I was like, this is not good. And then,
but if you go and seek out a real professional, they make it nice and smooth down there. It's like a
You're selling me on it.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't you want to just be like smooth down there? Just have a smooth transition from your belly button all the way down to your asshole?
Look, no, I don't. But I'm fully willing,
like a ski ramp.
Look, I'm fully willing to admit that the male appendage is a horror show. Like, cock and balls are the biggest joke committed on the human race by a deity ever. But you agree, Sheila?
Look, I'm just thinking of Dune right now. Yes, yes, awful.
No, but think about it though. Like
they're endlessly amusing though. Come on,
it looks like you've got a flesh gonzo down there.
Yeah,
and you've got these dangly balls that, if someone hits, you crumple you double over in pain.
Yeah. What creator designed that? Like the most sensitive part of your anatomy being like on the outside of you?
Well, I don't know. These evolutionary people will probably say that it's brilliant because you're going to protect that probably better than your pancreas. Because your pancreas, you're just going to leap from rock to rock away from the saber-toothed tigers and not care. Whereas the balls, you'll be probably leap cupping the balls.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They do look funny. I have to admit, and especially now that my husband's working from home, whenever I get the opportunity and he leaves his notebook out, his work notebook, I draw a cartoon dick and balls.
Yeah, classic move. That is a classic move. It's so good.
And he was like, "What's that?" And I go, "Oh, it's a mushroom. It's a mushroom." He's like, "No, it's a dick and balls."
Yes, no.
Stop writing shit like this all over my official work because he's got like a proper job, So, but I can't help it. And I do it in the shower as well, like when there's mist on the glass, and then he'll come in and I'll put a dick and balls in there.
I'm getting down the rabbit hole here, but as someone, it's always worse when someone draws the dick and balls for you, but their dick is really weird. They draw a weird dick, like the balls are really big, but the shaft is really small. Or it's pointing at a weird angle.
The head is always circumcised.
Yeah.
Even though that's been pretty much,
outlawed.
Yeah.
You got to track down a moil to get it done.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I feel like there's a TV show in this, Doodle Hacker MD.
Yeah.
That's good. Good. Shit. Move on quick. I'll never stop talking about dicks. Move on.
Okay. Well, here you go. You'll like this because I know you're a fan. Sean Connery's James Bond was basically a rapist.
Is this the Daily Mail?
Yeah, this is Daily Mail.
Okay.
Director of new 007 film No Time to Die says... Okay, that makes no sense, that headline, Daily Mail. But anyway, Sean Connery's Bond was basically a rapist, director of the latest 007 film set. The No Time to Die director is thought to be referring to a scene in Thunderball. In the 1965 film, Bond meets nurse Patricia Fearing, who rejects his advances, pushing him away when he forcibly kisses her and later takes off her clothes.
Well, yes. Well, look, this Bond movie is coming out soon.
Yeah,
and it's been delayed a lot, and there's been a lot of talk. And this is just the director throwing fuel on the fire. Like, there's so much. The horror of anyone who cares about Bond, as I do, you know what I mean? I care about Bond. The horror is that, you know, it really is just, you know, he's getting in the back seat, and then all these strong, powerful, you know, condescendingly powerful women are gonna tell him what for. You know what I mean? Like, so, and because that the mistake there is that they're thinking that that's what everyone really wants, women included, when I'm not certain that's true. I mean, we don't go to Bond. It's not a documentary, is it? Is it a documentary?
No.
Well, no, but I mean, also picking up on, you know, forcible kisses and stuff like that. Sorry, how is that any different from any of the films of that time? I mean, it's sort of, I don't know. I think it's sort of an own goal, really. These guys, you know, I mean, oh wow, revelation. You know, like, I mean, the films in the era before that, you got, if a guy wasn't getting his way on, this is on screen, was allowed to just slap the chick, you know, like slap them around. And, you know, I mean, it was it was just a film of the time. Get over it.
Well, you raise a good point. I think the overarching thing here is because you can easily get, because it's designed obviously to get me triggered. You know what I mean?
And look at you, you are.
I'm triggered. So it's the Daily Mail's got clicks from me already.
Yeah.
But you raise the cogent point, which is that once you you know, why address one scene in one film and not everything? Like because you need to pull back and say, oh yeah, I'm sure that scene is, you know, validly inappropriate or whatever, but is it different from the other films at the time? You know, and do we know the reasons now why, you know, things have changed and whatnot? You know what I mean? Like it's we never step back. It's just cherry picking this one scene, and, you know, in order to get everyone riled up, and you just go, yeah, well, it's like, why are you acting dumb? Like, you're a filmmaker, you've made what looks to be an interesting film, so you know what you're doing. So why are you acting like you don't understand anything about movies, about stories, about society, about progress? You know what I mean? Like, it's it's a big farce.
It is. Yeah. And I love the rise that I just got out of you. I feel very successful.
Okay, all right, you win.
Okay, here we go. All right, now, I'm sorry, this one is just, I can't stop. It's a very serious subject, but I just can't believe someone would do this. Okay, so outrageous moment. Teacher plays gun violence song Pumped Up Kicks during a school shooting threat. TikTok user BMoneyHoney420, who lives in the US, shared video of the incident on TikTok last week. She said the school had a shooting threat when her teacher played the Foster the People song in class. Lyrics to the song tell the story of a school shooter who sings, "You better run faster than my bullet." TikTok commentators found the choice funny, and the video has gone viral.
Oh, I don't understand. Did the song? What's the order of the events?
All right, so there's a school shooter event, and then obviously, I guess they're all cowering under their desks, which would be absolutely terrifying. And the teacher has chosen to put on "Pumped Up Kicks," which everyone knows is a song about a school shooting.
Yeah, but like, it's all we're dealing. This is that old thing. It's like Alan Alda says in Crimes and Misdemeanors. Comedy is tragedy plus time. So
well, I guess
the idea.
I guess.
So the only difference here is 2 weeks, because 2 weeks later, if you got that video and everyone was fine and you played that over it, it would be, people would go, "Oh, that's so great, so ironic and great."
Yeah,
he just was trying to be the first trender.
I guess he was just trying to sort of or they. I'm not sure if it was a man or a woman. Or
very good, very good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't know.
You got to hedge it. You know, you got to watch yourself on this show.
Oh well, I've said so many appalling things so far. I think that would be the least of my worries. Anyway, okay, moving on. That one was very strange. This one is a PSA. Okay, this is a PSA because everyone just, if you think there's something wrong with you, go to the doctor. Okay, just go to the doctor.
Not that backpacker guy.
No, don't go. No, don't go to.
Don't go to Doodle
Hotel.
Hacker MD.
No, don't go to Doodle Hacker. All right. Man 33 was left ejaculating out of his anus and urinating feces due to rare condition, but didn't seek medical help for 2 years. I mean, come on.
So
Come
long.
on. Go to the doctor.
No, but like
Fucking hell.
child's logic as well. Like it's a real what if you were ejaculating out of your butt? You know? Oh my God.
And you were pooing out of your wee hole. I mean,
that's something my 3.5-year-old would come up with. You know, like
Yeah.
farting popcorn was his big thing, like a few months ago.
this
Right.
is, I mean, and this is from a lady by Emily Craig, the health reporter for Mail Online. So, you know, I mean, this, fuck's sake, just gentlemen, go to the doctor. All right.
Yeah. I mean, you just don't want to let the rope get too long. Do you know what I mean? Like you just got to don't get too far from the shore is what I'm saying. Like what once, you know, I don't know, maybe after the first time you ejaculate out of your butthole, do something about it.
Maybe it was just so good, he just couldn't stop.
No, but if any of those things are going on, you can't operate in society. Like you can't go down to the bank and set up, you know, because all that's going on. You can't be around people. People don't want to be around. I don't want to be around that guy. Okay.
But he's not making it public until now.
Well, I think it would be pretty obvious. Like, you know, it sounds uncontrollable.
I haven't read that deep into the article. I'm just appalled about the 2 years because
you're worried about his health. I'm
a female, you know, like we just go to the doctor and appalling things happen to us all the time. But men, for some reason, anything dodgy is happening downstairs. They're like, oh no, it'll go away.
She'll be right. It'll go away.
She'll be right.
Yeah.
She'll be right.
Okay, so I've got another one. Now I like this one because it sort of ties into, you know, the whole culture of the young people of today not being able to help themselves but take photographs. Here we go. Fugitive Colombo Consigliere turns himself in to the FBI in New York after his son posted and then deleted picture of reputed mobster sitting poolside in Florida. So this young man couldn't help himself. He took a photo of his dad who's on the run, and then his dad had to hand himself into the FBI.
Oh, it just proves again that young people are dumb, and they just can't help themselves. They just have to post.
Not even mobsters are immune to Gen Z.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I hope it got good engagement in the very least.
Yeah. A lot of retweets and a lot of likes and
comments.
A bunch of comments.
At FBI.
That's
All
great.
right. Extraordinary moment. Single mum, 24, tells police she broke lockdown because there was no reception to film a TikTok in her garage before twerking while cops move her on.
I love it. It's great.
Again, the age, you know.
Yeah, 24 single mum, you know.
Yes, they've done it. They got. I felt I could almost track like the outrage going through my body with each of those words. It was like 24 single mum. It was just going on, and it was like TikTok, twerking as she's being moved on. I was like, I was doing all the right moves.
Yeah.
You know, there are influencers out there that exclusively twerk. And they make a fine living.
I hate that you know that.
Well, twerk is real work.
Yeah, how dare you say that twerk is not real work?
Twerk work is real work.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we can top that. That's great. I feel much better
stuff.
already. Thank you, Sheila.
No, thank you.
Except the Bond thing. That's really got my goat. But whatever.
I see. I know how to get you. I know how to get at you.
All right. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye-bye. All right, good stuff. Now, I believe before we wrap up the show today, we've got a bit of an update. A few episodes ago, we talked about an incident that happened, I think, in California at a spa called We Spa.
So We Spa, let me just give you just a very quick rundown of the events. So in June 2021 at the We Spa, which is like a Korean spa with gendered areas, a woman who identifies herself online as @CubanaAngel, a woman of color. And now I only say this because The Guardian never mentioned it. And which is very strange because, I thought they'd be hopping all over that. She posts an Instagram video. And in the video, @CubanaAngel complains to staff about seeing a man with, this is her description, a dick. Well, a man with a dick in the women's area.
It's okay for a man to go into the women's section, show his penis around the other women, young little girls underage. Your spa, We Spa, condone that. Is that what you're saying? Like I asked. It's so he can stay there. He can stay there. What sexual orientation? I see a dick. It lets me know he's a man. He's a man. He is not a female. He is not a female. Hold on. He is not a female, sweetie. Okay, girls down there, other women who are highly offended for what they just saw. And you did nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, you sided with him. So We Spa is in agreement with men that just say they are a woman and they can go down there with their penis and get into the women's section. Is that what you're saying? What really? What law? You got a man with his penis talking about he's a woman. He ain't no woman. Yeah, give her money back.
Are you talking about a transgender person?
There's no such thing as transgender. He has a dick. Okay? He has a penis. His penis is hanging out. Okay, no, I'm not one. Actually, I'm a woman who knows how to stand up and speak up for my right. As a woman, I have a right to feel comfortable without a man exposing himself, okay? No, you go somewhere else. Okay, so that's right. No, he's not a transgender. He has a penis, just like you do, okay? That's traumatizing to see that. I'm a woman. I think this is a place right here, I'm told, only for women. So how dare you sit up here and tell me I don't have a right as a woman to defend?
If it's a transgender.
I'm telling you, he has a penis. A full and testicles, okay? And I don't care what it's called. It's a man. You got one? You're a man. Okay.
I'm sorry you saw that.
Okay. So, well, yeah. You're sorry. You should be, sweetie. And you're out of alignment. And this is not right. I can tell you that much. All right? And I know you're out of order. Yeah, it must be hard. It must be hard not being a real man, huh? Try it.
So this incident triggers culture wars fracas involving Antifa, Proud Boys, and not a very good trans band, which we've covered
extensively. Yes,
covered extensively on this program.
I recommend you check out that episode.
So anyway, the protests outside this spa bring all that we've come to expect: violence and people pointing camera phones at each other, mainly. Yeah. The Guardian then writes a feature article under their LGBT rights section. This is the headline: "A nightmare scenario. How an anti-trans Instagram post led to violence in the streets," which their article focused on the anti-trans fallout of this incident. But more importantly, it downplayed @CubanaAngel's claims completely, almost dismissed them completely. Slate has a headline in their article following that: "Violence over an alleged transphobic hoax shows the danger of underestimating anti-trans hate." Now, the words... both of these stories have been updated. So in this case, the words alleged had been added. The original article headline just said violence over a transphobic hoax. So they called it outright a transphobic hoax.
Yep.
And that article heavily implied, strongly implied that at Cubana Angel is perpetuating a hoax. I've got your quote here from the Slate article. Soon after the video began to go viral in transphobic corners of the internet, members of the trans community began to raise questions about it. Chief among them that the video cuts out as the woman marches downstairs to confront this person she's allegedly seen, conveniently ending before the trans woman she's so angry about is shown. The woman also repeatedly mentions children being exposed to a penis while no children appear on the video and the group don't appear to have any children with them. So they have plainly stated that it's a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
After this, Andy No, our mate Andy, has reported in the New York Post, sex offending suspect claims transgender harassment in Weiss bar case. So Andy's got some more info for us, and this is the juice for you, the update. So there in fact was a transgender individual there. So those claims have been quashed by Andy's reporting. 4 women and a minor alleged that the person was not just nude but partially erect. This person is Darren Moraga, a 52-year-old sex offender involved in another locker room incident in December 2018 as well. This person is a Tier 1 registered sex offender with 2 prior convictions of indecent exposure from incidents in 2002 and 2003. They have a criminal history in California for a dozen felony convictions, sex offences, burglary and escape. The Guardian and Slate, after this, update their stories but do not offer retractions, apologies or any admission of error or spreading of misinformation. What do we think of this?
I think the most alarming aspect of this ever so 21st century scandal was the response of the liberal media. I think that's the worst, I mean, calling it a right-wing hoax, casting doubt over a woman's account of the events because they trawled through her social media pages and found her to be a Christian who is against gay marriage. So that was apparently enough to totally slam her and to not believe her story at all. And no progressive media outlet bothered to investigate very deeply at all. I think this is just really alarming that they're just towing the progressive left ideology just even when it's clearly obvious that something has happened here. They're still sticking to their guns. It's really I think it's really disheartening.
So in the video, there's that woke dude who comes up to her and says, he's exactly what you think. I think he's got the mustache,
the tats,
the glasses, just
skinny jeans.
Oh, all of that.
Yeah.
How come this guy has escaped? Has he got the cheat codes on or something? He's escaped scrutiny at all. So he's this sneering coastal elite who insults this woman.
He comes up to her and he suggests that the person that she's talking about who has a dick could be a transgender individual. And then he ends up saying, I think the quote is, "You're being a bit of a dick."
So imagine telling a sexual assault victim that they were being a dick. Imagine so someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, this thing's happened to me." And you say, "Oh, you're being a bit of a dick right now."
Yeah.
A white guy as well. A white guy telling a woman of color. Now, I don't buy into this intersectional nonsense, but let's play by their rules for a second. Here we have a privileged white man calling a woman of color who's coming to him with an alarming story of sexual assault, and he calls her a dick.
Yeah.
Imagine that to me just made my brain implode in itself.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how does that even work?
I know.
So, but I'm with you. The most alarming things here are it's the intersectional awkwardness created for these outlets that have made their decisions before they've done their reporting. So, what happened to because she's a religious, from what we gather, religious, black and female, you can see the sort of the game of Twister that Slate and The Guardian are having to do. And they do this whenever this happens. So, that they desperately, because they buy into, because they're what can be termed neo-racists, because they believe in immutable characteristics and that they define who you are 100%. So, they desperately kind of want to say that, she deserves some sort of privilege because she's black, but at the same time, and female, but she's religious, so that undoes all of that. And she's probably socially conservative, so then she's therefore subhuman. You know what I mean? And then it's on. The dogpiling is on. Yeah. So, but what happened to their slogans? What happened to believe all women? Or more charitably, let's say, because saying believe all women like sneeringly isn't helpful. Let's be charitable and say, what happened to investigate fairly? You know what I mean? Which is, I think, what we want. Now, they seem to have fits of, where was all this circumspection and curiosity? Where is it normally? They seem to be, all these outlets seem to be, really looking into this in a way that they weren't that much interested in Hunter Biden's laptop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that I love Hunter Biden's laptop,
Yeah.
but they are selectively interested in things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's lazy journalism too, isn't it? Because you can just look at your chart of intersectionality on in your office cubicle and go, okay, so trans person trumps black Christian woman. Okay, therefore it's the trans people that win.
Well, the biggest article that the Guardian did, or the feature they did, they were skipping to. They're so excited about this civil rights march stories, and this, they love that. If it bleeds, it leads, and for bleeding for them is sort of violence and camera phone footage and of transphobia and that. So they have a vested interest in those things continuing, but they were skipping to that. They were so excited about skipping to this. And look, some of that stuff might be actually quite legitimate. And even Andy calls out everyone involved in that nonsense that was going on out the front, all the way from the hard left to the hard right and everyone in between. So all the Guardian and Slate had to do was call it straight. Not without passion. I'm not saying that you can't do it without passion, but it takes courage to stand up to your audience and your stakeholders and say, here's what happened, and we might not like it. You can admonish the Proud Boys all you want. You can condemn the far right and Antifa, and most importantly, you can look into the actual facts of the case to make sure you're not missing any details. In this case, one of the claims that it was a hoax. And that there was no transgender person even there, that was debunked by Andy No, very simply by talking to the person and looking into the police reports and whatever and going, well, actually we've got footage. He even had footage of the person there, I'm pretty sure, from a Ring camera or whatever. So that wasn't a fact that was easily debunked. Now the other issues are still in play. You know what I mean? Like there is a genuine issue of what we are going to do in the future when it comes to trans women, because no one cares about trans men in what they do for some reason. No one cares. You know what I mean? So it's trans women in women's spaces. This is something we're going to have to work out, and I'm not sure it's going to please everyone. But in the meantime, the most important, the most alarming thing is this overcorrecting we're witnessing by educated elites. Who are their heroes in this? Do you know what I mean? Like in journalism, like do they like the firm but fair judge, or do they just want to be these moral crusaders? Now I've got a flair for the dramatic, so I finish with what I think. What I aspire to, because I'm a hothead and it takes me a lot of reading and a lot of thinking and considering to try and temper that and to say, okay. And, you have to be honest with yourself when you're being ideological, when you're obsessed with a narrative or an outcome. It takes a lot of courage to stand and say, okay, I'm going to say something that's goes against the grain here. So my example is Elliot Ness from The Untouchables. Now, I don't know if you remember the film, but Kevin Costner's character, fights Al Capone and the gangsters who are controlling the prohibition of alcohol or controlling the selling of alcohol in the prohibition era. Now, at the very end of the film, a reporter comes up to Elliot Ness after his long-fought battle, his hard-won battle against the gangsters, and he says, Mr. Ness, they say they're going to repeal prohibition. What will you do then? And he smiles, he says, I think I'll have a drink. So Ness, in this case, is not on an ideological crusade to stop the drinking of alcohol. He's out to stop the excesses that come with the peddling of alcohol, the violence, the gang stuff, that, the actual crimes that come with it. He's about the law and about justice. He is about justice and doing the right thing, even when it's unpopular and even when it may go against your personal preferences or interests.
Very good.
So perhaps we should be like Elliot Ness.
I think we should. Yeah. I've got a great Brendan O'Neill quote here from Spiked, which I think will sum up this whole situation.
Hit me.
And so we end up in the truly bizarre situation where the Guardian and others respond to an accusation of indecent exposure by crying hoax, where so-called liberals took the side of a white man who allegedly showed his semi-erect penis to women and a girl over a black woman who raised the alarm about this alleged sexual offence, where commentators like Owen Jones could denounce the campaign of lies over Wee Spa before he knew the facts, and Laurie Penny could say to a mother worried that her daughter might see a naked man in a female changing area that her daughter should not stare at other people's genitals without their permission because it's rude. Yeah, that's the problem here. Not blokes flashing their penises, but rude girls looking at them. Victim blaming on steroids.
Through the looking glass, that's where we are.
Indeed. Well, what an episode.
Heavy stuff.
Heavy stuff.
Next week, what do we got? We got Weekend at Bernie's 1 and 2 coming up on Wednesday.
Yep, that's Side Boob Cinema.
Correct. And then there was talk of maybe getting Katie involved next Thursday.
Yes, I think so. There's a topic that might need a little bit of a woman's touch, I think. So,
yes.
Yeah, we can explore that next week. But I think that's about it for today. I think I might go have a lie down.
All right. Well, we said what we said.
Said what we said. Until next week, long live the new flesh.
Long live the new flesh.
A real professional, they make it nice and smooth down there.
They do look funny. They do look funny. They do look funny.